Welcome back to the Dave Knows Comics live stream. I'm your host, David Lee, and I'm here today because we're going to be discussing something that has been hitting the news and is about to be hitting the comic book stands very shortly. And I think it's a big deal, and I'm very curious to know how you guys feel about it. So we're going to be discussing this, so feel free to weigh in your thoughts, because in case you have not heard, Clark Kent is going to be leaving the world of comic books. That's right, it's being reported that Clark Kent is no longer going to be a part of the Superman mythos. He is instead going to be canceled, and it's just going to be Superman all the time. Hello, True Sinister. Big Blue Attack. Punk is out of comics game. Well, yeah. He's got another gig, but we'll be talking about that on the other live stream, on the other channel. Yeah, today right here on the Dave Knows Comics live stream, we're going to be discussing this in case you haven't heard. The Clark Kent controversy, because now it appears that Clark Kent will no longer be Superman's alter ego. Worst idea ever, says True Sinisters. Thank you for weighing in. Ben Espinoza, hey, what up? We're discussing the Superman saga of No More Clark Kent. Clark Kent No More. Now, we've seen this a couple of times, Spider-Man No More, or the idea of superheroes giving up their superhero identity, but now we're going to be getting Superman getting rid of his Earthling identity, his mild-mannered alter ego, which I personally don't like, okay? I'm just going to go right out and say it. I'm not a fan of this idea, since, especially because Clark Kent is one of the archetypal, the OG secret identities. How can you do this? Now, let's give you the breakdown. Now, this has been reported by several outlets, but I'm going to be just reading one from Polygon. I got up here, and the statement goes that this December, Superman will reveal to the world that he and mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent are one and the same. And according to writer Brian Michael Bendis, it is not a trick, a twist, a joke, or an alternate universe. It'll be the new status quo. Now, that is what the words are according to Mr. Brian Bendis, who will be writing this arc. Now, what do you guys think about this? Because we are sitting here in a day and age where we no longer get to see Clark Kent anymore. Now, in case you haven't figured it out, or in case you missed it from that, what I just read from that article, we are not getting, this is not going to be one of those things where Clark Kent just quietly disappears. He is openly admitting to his identity. He is openly admitting that he is Clark Kent, okay? That is what the world's going to get. So it'd be one thing if they just retired the character of Clark Kent. It'd be one thing if Clark was just going away for a little bit and they could still come back to it or revisit it at some point in time. But no, this is going to be a full-on reveal. A full-on reveal. One image that I think we need to see. One thing I think is pertinent to, hold on, sorry about this. Wish I brought this up sooner, but I'm just going to bring it up now. Hopefully it's okay. One thing that I think we need to know about this whole Clark Kent idea is that this is allegedly supposed to be a permanent change. What's up, Vinny Montana? So it's like, I am Iron Man at the end of Iron Man movie. Yeah, that's what allegedly going to be. So allegedly it's going to be. So we have seen this teased throughout several incarnations of superheroes. Bendis himself was the writer behind revealing Daredevil's secret identity to the Marvel Universe. However, I think it's fair to point out that while he likes this idea, Marvel has kind of pulled back on it, trying to shove the genie back in the bottle, and which I think is a very important point to bring up here, because when it comes to that version of Clark Kent, or when it comes to dealing with Clark Kent when it comes to revealing, excuse me one second, when it comes to revealing Clark Kent, we have a bit of an issue, because it's, hold on, bear with me 1 second. All right, so I just wanted to reveal this cover right here. I know I'm doing this live, but hey, that's the fun of doing this live, right? So I thought this was a really cool image if you could soak this in. You see the Krypton, the Superman, you see the Superman tights down there in the corner with the foot, and then you see that he's above the Justice League, and then you see the glasses. So I think this is actually a pretty cool image for the reveal. It's a cool drawing. Gonna say that for what it's worth. I meant to put that in earlier and I just forgot. Okay, so Vinny Montaigne says, thought on Superman and Lois Lane spin-off TV series in the Arrowverse, if you've heard. I've heard of it. They were also, I reported on this a little while back, they were working on a Metropolis TV series that was going to follow Lex Luthor and Lois Lane, because for some of you who may not be aware, Lois Lane and Lex Luthor did date in the comic books before Superman was around, so this might have been a retelling of them as an honest-to-goodness loving couple, real strong relation, equals, if you will, as they're two major players of Metropolis. And it might have been interesting because Lex has been played a lot of times as a character who is either manipulative and is incapable of falling in love, but then there's also times where they played it where he was genuinely in love with Lois Lane. And interestingly enough, the jealousy angle has been downplayed over the years. It was a big part of one of the reasons why he hated Superman, is because Superman was clearly with Lois Lane, the woman that he still loved or had feelings for, and then they kind of tweaked it around that he just hates him regardless, and the fact that he's with Lois really doesn't matter. So it depends on interpretation. But I was intrigued by that series. Doesn't seem like it's going forward, for at least last I checked, so it seems that it's moved into this other direction. I'm not opposed to it, because I think Lex is a fascinating character, and I think the more Lex you get, the better. As I think he is an interesting character. If they do Lois and Clark again as a spinoff, it could work, but I'd be more intrigued by a Lex series. Yeah, Joker killing it in the box office. Okay, so back onto the lecture at hand. So, dealing with the Superman issue. Now, initially, the big fear that everyone has is that, as I was saying, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's hard for you to take Superman once his identity has been revealed. And it's not that Clark just disappeared one day and nobody, went back to Smallville and no one heard from him again. No, he's going to reveal that he and Clark Kent has been one and the same the whole time, which really shouldn't come to as a surprise for most people. Anyway, the fear has always been that you can't undo this. It's been the same condition when Spider-Man's identity was revealed and so on and so forth, but it's comic books. And especially with Brian Michael Bendis, who is doing the Superman reveal, previously did the Daredevil. Well, I gotta admit, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it is tenuous at best, and it's on shaky ground. Marvel has proven, no, you can't just say, oh no, nobody remembers that's Daredevil. Shh. Or magic their way into Peter Parker being Secret Spider-Man again. You can. If you really want to, you can undo it. And even though Brian Michael Bendis, well, I do believe he has no intention of undoing this, it wouldn't surprise me if another writer somewhere down the line takes it back. Or if they reboot the series, like DC's been rebooting again for the umpteenth billionth time, and they just go right back into it. They could do a million things. There's always another way to take it away. So the problem with comic books now is it's lost its trust from me, and I think for a lot of the audience, where they say something's going to be the new status quo. You hear that all the time, the new status quo. This is going to be the new thing going forward. And, another universe reboot. Or, they took it back with magic. Oh, the Doctor Strange. I know that's not DC, but still, you get my point. Yeah, right, true sister. Just imagine at the end of Iron Man. At the end of Iron Man 1, he says, I am Iron Man. End of Iron Man 2, he goes, I lied, it is a bodyguard. Just imagine that. Yeah, right. Well, I'm sorry, Harry Flynn. Spoiler warning, yes, Clark Kent and Superman are the same person. I apologize for not giving a spoiler warning into that. What do you think when Superman, okay, Vinny Montaigne asks, do you think when superheroes reveal their identity that it should only be the people that they know, or should it be the whole world? I really don't like superheroes revealing their identity. I really, really don't. I admit that Spider-Man not revealing it to, like, Aunt May doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, there's certain things that is kind of weird that he doesn't tell her about. And the original justification that she was an old woman and might, like, she might not be able to deal with the shock. And it's like, okay, all right, fine. Or he didn't want her to worry, especially with Uncle Ben and all that. I get it to a degree. But there are other people that don't know. Like, when other superheroes don't know each other's names, it seems weird to me. But I do think that's a glazed over portion of the world that I would like to see. Like in the Justice League cartoon with the Thanagarian invasion, Season 2's finale for Justice League the show, when Batman and Wally West were revealing identity. Like, it's a big moment, and I do like that idea of when do superheroes reveal themselves to each other. I almost think that's a certain certain thing that we wish we could keep track of. Like, okay, this guy knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, but this guy doesn't, and find out who it is. Now Spider-Man doesn't want to reveal his identity to girlfriends. I get it, because you might break up with them, and hey, even marriages, you never know. Batman never did it. Batman's tough. He did in that episode that I was talking about, though. All right, so, but it's an interesting thing. But I'm typically against superheroes just revealing their identities in period. I want like a short list of people, like that are gonna know Spider-Man, or Superman. But the Superman one, of course, is a tough one to deal with because of how flimsy the costume is. All right, Vinny Montana says, how do you feel about people not putting the connection together? Batman and Bruce Wayne have the same chin, or that Clark Kent and Superman have the same hair and come. Well, Clark Kent and Superman aren't supposed to always have the same. Like Superman has the curl, but I know they kind of don't do that as much as they used to. Batman and Bruce Wayne have the same chin. It's their chins. Like, how do you gonna know? And especially, let's remember, Batman is a less public figure. It's not like you have newspaper articles or in the world of Gotham that you're going to see a lot of pictures of Batman. He shrouds in shadows. He doesn't like being photographed. So it's not like people have a chin to directly look at it and then start comparing it to the rest of the world. There's a handful of people who've seen Batman, and when they do, they're normally getting punched by him. So it's not like they're really focusing on, let's remember that. That way I could definitely remember the next time I see somebody else with it. So Batman, I understand that people are not going to put two and two together for that one. The Clark Kent, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the Clark Kent glasses, okay, look, we joke about it all the time. It is ridiculous, yes. There are ways around it, but it is, for the most part, just extension of disbelief. You just put it aside and say, forget it, I'll just deal with this. So, all jokes aside, it is a weird thing to do, but this revealing his identity to the world does at least stow this away. We don't have to deal with this anymore, that this silly costume is there. But I think it's fair to say that, so while it does solve that problem, I think there are many other things that it actually brings up. Big Blue Tech says, hey, Dave, why does DC Universe always reboot universes? Okay, I've mentioned this previously, but one of the major reasons why we see all these reboots, number one, and Marvel does it too, to be fair. DC makes a bigger deal about it, or seems to draw a little more attention to it than Marvel does, especially since they have their reputation for reboots. But the major reason why is because issue number 1 of a comic book tends to sell a lot, and more so than issue 700 or 800. And it doesn't matter how many number 1s you have. If you reset the universe and start back at issue 1, that book will typically sell bigger than your issue 900, 500, or whatever, even those milestone books. So there's more advantages to resetting the universe back to number 1 again than there is letting the number climb higher. You think that having issue like 600 or 700 or 800 would be a mega milestone and they would sell a lot, but not nearly as much as number 1s. So a major reason why they have the reboots is because those number 1 issues sell a lot, and it's a great way for them to make sales. I don't agree with the practice, but that's one reason that they do it. The other one is, of course, sloppy continuity with decades upon decades of stories. Case of DC, almost getting to the point of 100 years, almost a century's worth of stories. Of course, continuity gets sloppy, so it's time to reshuffle things. And things also need to be rebooted and retooled for the modern sensibilities, especially today's day and age. Companies perceive us as needing things to be changed to our taste. Whether or not that's true, it's a different story, but that's how companies perceive things. So there's a lot of things like that that have to get done. But good question. Did you hear about the rumored bat suit for Pattinson Gray, blue and gray with the white eyes from the comics? I heard rumors like that for Affleck, so not opposed to it. I want to see what it looks like. I mean, do you love how villains are often smart enough to figure out the secret identity of heroes, yet have enough honor or respect to keep the secret? True Sinister says, no, I do not. I think, like in the Joker's case, you're like, oh, he's so crazy, he doesn't care that he knows who Bruce Wayne is. I was like, no, no. I think that's ridiculous. But in the case of like a Ra's al Ghul, yeah, because the character's kind of crafted to not care about Bruce Wayne, or he just treats him as one and the same. It's not a big deal that he discovered the identity. Like when Riddler found out Batman's identity, it's a little rough because, yeah, all right, he should figure it out, but you tell him he's not going to say anything because, oh, the riddle is worthless if everyone knows it. No, I don't think so. He's gonna tell somebody just to say, "Hey, I figured out who Batman is." There's no way he just keeps that to himself. Anyone tell you? Do you think Joker always knew Bruce and Batman were? Nah, I don't. I don't like that review myself. I'm personally not a fan of it. Change a woman's hair and put some glasses on, and they look completely different unless they have more distinct than average. Yeah. And you know what? I don't mind that in the case of like Batgirl, where they did in the TV show, where she actually had different color hair and it was a wig. It's like, well, that's a smart move. Leave the hair like in the back, but it's not even really your hair. The Kane maneuver. Not to bring up the other, not to bring up wrestling again, but you get my idea. Okay, Arthur Pryor. Arthur Pryor says, Dave, yammering on about comic books in front of a ripped garbage. This is not a garbage bag. And shut up, Arthur. This is cloth. It is not garbage bag. I don't know why you think this is a garbage bag. Oh, that's right, because you have some sort of issue with eyesight, which is why you don't understand that Alexa Bliss is gorgeous, because you can't tell what things are. All right. Anyway, I got a lot of, not to use an industry term, but I got a lot of B-roll to go to. So going back to, did that one already. Going back to Superman. I like this image. Going back to Soups saying goodbye to Clark Kent. Now, the other reason why I want to bring this up is because this has a lot of ramifications, saying goodbye to Clark Kent. For example, he's not Batman. He's not Iron Man. Superman makes no money. He has a job. He's a J.O.B. Now, yeah, fine. Print media is in a rough spot right now, but nonetheless, how's he going to afford his apartment? How's he going to afford a car? How is he going to afford clothes? And, he doesn't really need food. But just saying, yeah, he could just chill in the Fortress of Solitude all the time. But what about flying around regular Metropolis? How come he ain't going to have a house in regular Metropolis? Or what's he going to do? Just stay with Lois the whole time? And even if he did, he's still going to need money for stuff. Buy Lois a birthday present. Things are going to come up. Having cash, probably important. What's he going to do for a J.O.B.? Maybe he works for the government just as Superman? Sure, possibility. But you know what I'm saying? There are practical, real-world applications to having Clark Kent, which is why he's Clark Kent in the first place. Because if that wasn't so, he would have ditched the Clark Kent persona and just been Superman, when he was 18, or in the case of the movies, when he went to Fortress of Solitude and just stayed there for 12 years learning from Marlon Brando, and then came out and became Clark Kent, nerdy guy. Point of the matter is, Clark Kent has some actual functions to him. And let's just say he gets paid by the government, or Batman just pays him money to be Superman or whatever. Even so, let's go to the Kill Bill speech, because I think that's very important. Where, in case you haven't seen the movie, Bill from the movie Kill Bill states that Superman, to give you the short version of this, is that Superman is Superman. Clark Kent is the disguise, and it's a commentary on the human race. But the reality is that's not so. At least that's not the way I perceive it. Clark Kent was raised to be Clark Kent. Clark Kent didn't know he was Superman until later on, as his parents eventually told him. We've seen this in Smallville. We've seen this in the Superman, in other incarnations of Superman. It's not something he always knows. He really is Clark Kent, personality-wise. He is that guy from Kansas. He is the parents he knows is Mom and Pa Kent. Not so much Jor-El and Krypton. He was a baby. He has no real memory of that kind of stuff. So to me, the real person is Clark Kent. Who his personality is Clark Kent. Ditching that is a lot, and saying goodbye to that is harder. It's easy for someone to say, hey, I'm going to be this persona, this character in public as a superhero. All right, time to retire that and just go back to being me again. That makes sense. But the person you were raised by since you were a baby, that's the person you're saying goodbye to. That's harder. Now, personality shift-wise, there's not going to be so much difference between Clark Kent and Superman. But, he's just going to be more Clark Kent. But what is this going to mean? What's this going to happen? Superman is going to swoop down and very publicly make it known that he is going to this Kent farm for Thanksgiving. This is going to kind of blow up his parents' spot, you know what I'm saying? And that ain't cool. Let's see what we got here. Let's go back to the chat. Arthur fought a bear before named Justina. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Dave, would you check out... Oh, yes, I definitely will be checking out Crisis on Infinite Earths. I can't wait. Seems great. Was Dave the anonymous road general manager? Would you tell us? It was Hornswoggle. Everyone knows that. But the other one, we don't know about yet. He was Clark first. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So there's other ramifications to losing the Clark Kent persona. We all know Clark would get the money. He would just ask Bruce for it. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, he could, but isn't it kind of awkward? Dave, you are a comic book genius. Thank you, Ben Espinosa. That's very nice of you to say. So, I think there are a lot of real. So, for me, there are a lot of problems with this whole thing breaking down. It takes away Superman's ability to have a normal life as just Clark Kent, and he's even said it in other and the Batman and Superman animated series. He even said he'd go crazy if he had to be Superman all the time. He needs that reset. He needs to be that good old boy from the farm. He needs to be able to eat cornbread and watch football and drink beer every once in a while and just be a regular dude. That's the thing that keeps him, even though he's not biologically, but that's the thing that keeps him human, for lack of a better phrase. That's the issue we have here. So when it comes to Superman, we need him to have that outlet. It's what makes him more of a human character than, let's say, Batman, who is all dark and brooding all the time. And we are living in a different world. And now we see a Batman who the possibility of Batman being happy has been talked about a lot and is being introduced in the comic books. So maybe this is the part where Superman gets a little darker and they kind of switch a little. Maybe Batman gets less of a loner streak and Superman becomes a little more isolated. Maybe they're going to swap. Maybe it's going to lead to a different direction. And Brian Michael Bendis, if I remember correctly, has stated that this opens up a plethora for stories that we're not able to get the other way around with his secret identity intact. So hopefully this is going to be an interesting take on the character. Maybe this is going to freshen him up a little bit. Personally, I don't think so. And while I don't think that Brian Michael Bendis is doing this for any other reason than he just thinks it's a good idea, and he truly believes in the stories that we can tell from this point on, or he can tell from this point on, or I think there is a inherent danger, and I do think that a lot of people are going to use this as just a publicity stunt or a cash grab, a way to get people's attention just for kicks, and not take it as seriously as they could, which might lead to lesser stories. But either way, I'm really not a fan of the idea. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments if you are not watching this live. But I do want to thank everybody for contributing here to this conversation and being here right now. However, right now I'm going to be wrapping up this episode because we have got another live stream that needs be doing. So give me a moment and we're going to switch over to the other show. And thank you much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, Dave knows.